And welcome back to the Wicked Wild podcast. Not just any Wicked Wild podcast. You are listening to the inaugural launch of our special event for spooky season called Camp Wicked Wild. And we have all been kind of stoked for this for months. We've been planning something special just for our audience, just to say thanks for listening and to show kind of our spooky excitement. This is our time of year. This is sort of our Super Bowl crunch time on the Wicked Wild. So we're excited about that. So just remember, during October, you're going to get twice the Wicked Wild every single week. Every Monday, you're going to get a movie review. And every Thursday, you're going to get a Campfire Tales to accompany that movie review. So I hope you'll stick with us through October and add a little spooky to your life. The other thing is, during Camp Wicked Wild, we have some special merch, and some of us are wearing it. If you're looking at us on YouTube, you'll see our cool Camp Wicked Wild design on a few people, because we're nerds and wear our own merch and are unapologetic about that. And then you have a chance to win some of that merch on each of our movie review episodes. So at the end of the episode, I'm going to give you a cue, and we'll see who can win some gear from the Wicked Wild.
Can I win?
No, you cannot. And neither can Beli.
What about Leli?
No, Leli's out too. Leli's in jail, isn't he?
I mean, you can write letters from jail.
And on that note, we're going to jump into the introducing you to our hosts this evening, and we're going to start with John up in. Are we still calling it Chicago, Michigan, or is that ship sailed? I mean,
I don't know. I don't even know where I'm at anymore.
I'm still confused by that. Yeah, that was something that Mary came up with, and we've kind of ridden it along. But he is in the greater Detroit area, and I wanted to know, because obviously every time I think about Camp Wicked Wild, kind of the stuff, the way we've organized this is like a spooky sleepaway camp. And John, were you a sleepaway camp kid in the summertime?
No, I not a summer sleepaway camp. I did a sleepaway camp in the winter here in Michigan. It's very weird.
That's a bold move.
Sounds dangerous, buddy.
It sounds like how children get frostbite.
Either that or they man up. I mean, it was definitely pretty cold when you woke up in those cabins every day. It was an experience. Like it's fifth grade camp. It's really weird. Something our school district did. But yeah, we did in the winter. You did cross country skiing and a bunch of other outdoor activities. Some survival stuff. You would have probably done.
Oh, cool. Was it over Christmas break or something?
No, it was
like during the school year in the winter?
Yeah, it was during the school year. So I want to say it was like late January, February. So it was after the holidays, but when snow was on the ground. So
weird. Well, I wouldn't have
only
guessed
1
that.
year.
Yeah.
That's it. Very strange.
That's all it took. They said he's ready.
Somebody said, we decided to do this in winter, and that was not a great idea. So we're not going to do this again. I just have to imagine the gear you have to create or surplus for having a bunch of kids in the camp at wintertime is just astronomical. That's just a lot of gear, extra gear that you have to worry about.
Really wasn't that bad. I mean, it's not like we're like in 5 feet of snow or anything. It wasn't that crazy. But
Was
it's
it
just
an
like bring your
indoor
jackets.
bathroom? Was it an indoor bathroom? Or was it like an outhouse bathroom?
Indoor plumbing there.
Not real camp. He basically went to a winter retreat.
And there you hear Eli. Obviously, his biggest concern has to do with poop. So that was where he had he had to check in there.
It is a fair concern to me. I mean, to be honest.
It is true.
Thank you.
Eli, our Pittsburgher.
How
you doing, my guy?
I'm doing good. You know, I've been on some travel, spreading the good news of the Mole Kingdom. I feel like tonight I'm gonna keep spreading that good news.
Sweet.
Some of you may disagree with me, but 95% of you are wrong. So,
wow, bold move. Not unsurprising, but bold. And I don't know about you, but this week it finally hit a regular 70s during the day here, and been going on my night walks when it's nice and crisp. So I'm all about what's happening right now. I am obviously built for cold weather. I am not built for hot weather.
This time of year I always enjoy walking through the woods, kicking the leaves.
I'm not built for either, so I don't know where I go.
Jamie has a delicate constitution.
We just gotta get you out in the right woods, Jamie. That's all. Just the right woods.
No, temperature, I mean. Or the woods.
If you're walking through the woods, temperature don't matter. You're gonna get your body heat up,
You gotta work a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta walk a little.
And then you heard Jamie. our Manhattanite. I don't even know, other than New Yorker, what are the other fancy terms for people that live on the island?
Nothing. We're just New Yorkers.
Just New Yorkers.
Yeah,
Unpretentious.
so
You know, I was
fancy.
thinking about that today. I was talking to some friends in LA and realized, you know, of the big cities, I think I land more on the New York side because it just seems like you're more no nonsense, like
You do, Dave. You do.
practical. So
You do. I've been to LA. You're a
I'm
New
not made for
Yorker.
that.
Yeah.
Do you think I would do okay in LA?
No.
Fair enough.
Nothing seems worse to me
I'd love
than
to see
being
you
in LA.
here. I'd love to see you here, though, Eli.
You would see a very disgruntled, short man wondering why there's so many damn people walking around me.
what's all these people doing in this city?
Don't they got anything better to do than walking these sidewalks? I think this is for walking.
So, Jamie, I know this is your big time of year. Do you have any excited haunts you're looking forward to, or parks or
Yes.
events?
I have almost my whole October is full.
I was going to say, you probably have every weekend booked. Don't
I
you?
do. 3 of those already have haunted attractions in them, including Halloween Horror Nights, which anybody who's listened to me before knows that is one of my favorite things on the planet, and I can't say enough good things about it. And then I'm doing something different this year that I haven't done before, but I've seen it. It's called and it's in a few different cities, probably LA, somewhere maybe in probably Austin. I don't remember where else, but I saw it. It's called like House of Spirits, and I'm not really sure because I've never been, but it sounds like a mix of something else that we have here, which is Sleep No More, which is like an interactive theater. Caitlin, you would love it. And this is like I think an interactive like performance with drinks. I get a drink tasting and a chocolate tasting, and it's like a cocktail, so you're supposed to wear like cocktail attire.
Oh, cool.
And there's actors and stuff, and then it says you can explore the mansion, and different levels have like different shit to get involved in. So it's like you could take it as just drinks and a party, or you can like go in the basement and see what the fuck's going on, or go like up 2 floors and play like a game, they say.
You can go as deep as you want.
Yes,
That's very
you can
cool.
go. So I'm kind of excited for it because I have not done it yet, and it's something different, and it sounds really cool. So
Now, in general, are you a full contact or no contact haunt fan?
So there haven't been a minute. I will not do the extreme. Like if anybody's watched
Right.
those specials, I'm not going to
Yeah.
McCamey Manor. But
Yeah.
as far as contact, those weren't around until Eastern State Penitentiary, which is fantastic. But I found out they changed in the past 2 years. So I was going to go there this year, and I was super stoked. But they changed that to a more family friendly thing.
Oh, okay.
I'll go for contact if it's like Eastern State Penitentiary, because anytime they do it, it's been fun. Like they put you in like a secret little tunnel, or they put me in like a ball pit, and I had to like find everybody, and like it's just things like that. I will never do like an extreme. You're not like grabbing me and yanking my hair and doing whatever. But they're always just like, you know.
So you're not
like,
doing
it
the
just
full
adds,
contact
like-
from a random group of people who just put a pop-up haunt in.
No,
You want to
like-
know who the people
I mean,
are.
if Halloween Horror Nights did full contact, I would totally do it. But obviously, Universal Studios would have a lot of problems with that. So it's
Yeah.
you don't touch me, I don't touch you kind of rules there.
Yeah, that's not something they're going to underwrite anytime soon.
No. Although I hope no one's listening. I hope he doesn't get fired. But I did hug a vampire in one of them once.
Uh-oh. We won't name drop. Were they sparkly? Just so I know.
No.
And then, as Jamie just mentioned, we have a return host coming back. She's now part of the crew officially. I mean, I think
Oh,
she's just
gosh.
one of us. So I'd like to have an introduction for our buddy Caitlin from Plug It Up Podcast. How's it going?
Hello, it's good. It's good. You didn't say where I'm from.
I didn't. She is from, what was it?
How dare you?
um,
How very dare you?
Roanoke, Virginia. That's what it was.
Close, close. I do love Roanoke, I must say. I love Roanoke.
Our Richmondite. What is the term for Richmond people?
Richmonder.
Richmonder. Oh, it's like a Pittsburgher. It
Yeah,
makes perfect
yeah.
sense.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
You're a New Yorker.
So it was funny. I was watching. They just dropped, and they may not have just dropped, but I just finally saw it on Shudder. The Gore documentary,
Yeah.
and that's prime Richmond culture.
It is, yeah. We have a soft spot for Guar here, and Guar Bar is actually really good. The like head chef there is very good, and is a really fun experience. And Guar's like not my music taste per se, but I really respect what they do, and I don't know, they make me proud.
Yeah, in the documentary they showed the Gore Bar a couple times, and I was kind of curious. It seemed like the kind of things just from their performance you would have to wear a tarp to go eat there, but it doesn't seem like it was that kind of place. It seemed like it's
it's really nice.
slick.
Like it's fun to go. It was we were gonna go there before the last podcast show because I thought that would be like a really nice way to top off the whole day, but with COVID and everything, we decided not to. But yeah, it's a cool place. Richmond in general, very cool place.
Very cool place. There you go. You've heard it here first, and at some point, Caitlin's going to have us all over, and we're going to do an event there in Richmond.
Yeah.
She's going to take us to all her favorite hot spots. So
go to the Hollywood Cemetery. Not in LA, in Richmond, as it turns out. Not in Hollywood.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. There's presidents buried there if you're into that kind of stuff.
If I'm into presidents?
If you're into presidents and burials, and there's an occult shop nearby, it's great.
Well, as we mentioned, we are doing our movie review tonight, and we are setting things off with a banger, I think. And I think we're going to have some debate, unfortunately, with some of the people on this podcast. But we watched The Cabin in the Woods, and that was my first time realizing it's the. I've always just called it Cabin in the Woods, but it's
Is it? There's a the between
the Cabin in the Woods. Yeah.
You uncultured swines.
Listen, I was like the
exactly
definite article, not a,
but
the Cabin in the Woods.
How dare they? It does not need the. It's Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
But before we jump into that, as we usually do here on the podcast, we're going to do our on-the-fly synopsis, and I'm going to ask my buddy Caitlin if she likes sour gummy candies, chocolate candies, or nougat candies for her tricks or treats.
Wow, I like all of those, but I'm going to go nougat. I feel like underappreciated nougat. Yeah.
Little num-nums in the nuggets, yeah.
I wonder how Dave assigns these.
I think we're about to find out whoever pick what type of candy you are.
Who do you all think the nougat host is?
I'm the nougat. I'm going to be really
You are.
Oh, wait. Better question. Which one do you consider a sour?
I think you know.
You son of a bitch.
Was Jamie chocolate?
Of course. Yeah.
Nice.
You know what?
Everybody, I didn't get any of. I offended all three of you. How is that possible?
No, not me.
Okay, Jamie's good with the chocolate. All right, John.
Chocolate.
Tell us about The Cabin in the Woods.
They're all good. They're all good candy.
Nougat is probably the least acceptable. So this will be the least acceptable.
Joke's on you. Nuggets are my favorite. So
actually, yeah, the gummy worms are the least because I can't even eat them. So how about that?
I don't know if that was a slight at me or at the candy itself, but either way, I'm taking it personally.
I think it's both.
Candy is the candy.
Taking it personally.
Listen, Eli. If I'm going after you, it's not like I don't have to.
Oh, you know what? You know what?
We were open and honest with each other.
We were starting to, agree on things, and now if we're about to have a shit war,
Well, I mean, just last week we were all wheeze laughing at Bigfoot theories that you brought us. So I think we're all closer for that experience, if nothing else.
I'm just here to educate.
All right, sorry, John. We will let you.
You're good. You're good. I mean, I'm just here debating whether I should learn how to play the brown note and then send a voicemail over to Eli one day randomly.
I'm immune, bro.
He is the brown note.
Oh, that's what we're doing, huh? We're starting this off early. All right, fair enough. All right. It's gonna be that kind of show. Okay. All right.
We're supposed to take this off the show.
Yeah. And just let everybody behind the curtain once. Just one time. So The Cabin in the Woods. This movie is about 5 youths who get together and they happen to fly in the face of many tropes, even though they fit certain physical characteristics that they represent. They go out to the cabin in the woods that his cousin just happened to buy, and nobody knows where it's at, even though his cousin just bought it, and happen across a unsightly harbinger who promptly gives them very fun directions to the cabin. They get to the cabin, things begin to unfold, but we keep getting these side flashes to this mysterious group of corporation workers. These corporation workers are up to no good and betting on the unlikely fate of all of our protagonists. We just want me to go to the end and just ruin it?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's
okay.
Well,
it's
you can just give the black and white of this movie, not
There you
the
go.
you know what I mean? Just like
nougat.
like
Got
what the IMDb tells you it is. You know.
Yeah. So some monsters.
I mean, you still have to spoil it, yeah.
Yeah, the monsters get released. Some people die in some unfortunate ways, but we did get a very nihilistic ending that I happen to love. But Sigourney Weaver then shows up and everything's great.
You gotta love that cameo. One of the best cameos in movies for sure. And
Now,
she does that in a couple of different movies, and it's always fantastic.
And TV shows.
When
Oh,
she
yeah.
comes over the PA, did anybody else recognize her immediately?
yeah.
Because I did.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember. It's too long ago.
She has a distinct voice for sure.
It was supposed to be Bruce Campbell. Apparently, was the first choice.
Oh, really?
Oh, that would have
Yeah.
been amazing.
That
She was the second choice, so she wasn't part on the list.
Makes
She
sense,
was-
but he makes sense as first choice for that, actually.
It is the cabin in the woods, after all. So,
That is very, very true.
so thank you for that, John. So as we do here on the podcast, if you've been listening, you know this. If you haven't, here's the deal. We're going to give sort of our 30,000 foot summary experience with the movie, the first time we saw it, how we saw it, what our first impressions were in this last, if that's changed in our last viewing or any of that kind of stuff. And then we're going to jump into some conversation that will take about 5 minutes to totally get off the rails and talk about what we're really here to talk about, which I have no idea. I never know what we're actually here for.
We'll get
But
to it.
we'll find out. Yeah. So we're going to let our guest, Caitlin, jump in and tell us your first experience with The Cabin in the Woods and kind of what you think of this movie overall.
Well, when I picked this movie, I told you I had a surprise for you. And the surprise was that I had never seen this movie before. Which
What?
I know. It's a classic.
You
and
haven't?
I know.
Wait,
I like
Caitlin, no
I-
way that we have not talked about this.
well, I knew everybody loved it. I knew that Mary, Eli, your lovely wife, loves it. And I never watched it before. And I was like, okay, this is the sign. Now is the time. I'm gonna
better
go
for it.
It's a Camp Wicked Wild miracle.
Yes.
It's a
It was-
magical
This is
night.
exciting.
Yeah, it was my first time. I watched it this past week, and I really enjoyed it. I was at first, you know, I picked up on what was happening, but I was like, huh. And then when they think it's over, I also thought it was over, and I was like, well, that wasn't very good. And then it kept going and got better. So my first experience was, I feel like probably how they intended it to be, you know, like sort of like along for the ride. And I think I was a good sport about it, and I enjoyed my viewing. So
Well, very cool. I'm excited to get into the conversation about that. So it sounds like, did you go in fairly cold? Now I'm very curious. Did you know much about it just from everybody talking about it around you, or?
So I was under the understanding that like every room in the cabin was going to be like a different thing. Like one room is going to be werewolves and one room is going to be vampires. And like, I knew it was tropey on purpose. But I misunderstood like the puppeteering of it all, like the game making of it all. But I'm glad I didn't know exactly what to expect. And I didn't expect sort of like the Black Mirror meets Old Gods kind of vibe of it all, which was really cool. So.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
but I'm glad that I waited because I don't know, it was fun to do it with y'all. I
Yeah.
felt like such a dummy. I was like, I gotta watch that at some point. Everybody fucking loves it. But
And now you've checked that box. All right, Jamie, what about you? Was this your first watching too? What am I learning about you?
I kind of wish. No, I saw this in theaters, which I know it was a while ago, but I'm not a big theater goer, so that's like a big I did see it in theaters. I am embarrassed to say that when I first saw it, this is embarrassing. The whole metaphor of the whole thing kind of went over my head at first because I was just so into like certain scenes and whatever, and I at first was just like, well, it was a little, you know, and like. I love the movie. I think this is a fantastic horror movie for everything it does. Even without the metaphor, like I love this movie. I have scenes of this movie that like just like go down as some of my favorite scenes in any horror movie. The elevators being one, like 3 times those things ding, and my heart just like it just flows. Like, it's just like it's amazing. But anyway, I do love this movie now. The last scene, literally the last 2 seconds, I hate. I don't know why. I fucking hate that shot. And I think when I left the movie theater, that shot was still in my head too, and I was just like, but no, I'm in that 95% that loves this movie, and no matter how many times I watch it, I don't watch it as much for a movie that I really enjoy, but I think that's good for this movie because it's not like, I mean, it's got comedy, it's got this, it's good to watch it every once in a while. So when we watched it for this, I hadn't seen it in like a little bit, so it was good to rewatch for this, and I enjoyed it just as much as I always have enjoyed it. So
yeah, it's good to let the gimmicks cool a little bit between watching.
Because if you watch this one, I think too much, like too often, like all
you would read it
become a little like you're like and plus, I mean, come on, early Chris Hemsworth. I'm sorry, it has to be said because I adore him. So
this was his pre-Thor. We'll get into it.
We will get.
It's
Yes,
an interesting
it is pre-Thor, but post-Thor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, John. What about you? What do you think of The Cabin in the Woods?
I came to this one late, not as late as Caitlin, but definitely late. About 3 or 4 years after this movie came out, and then I was like, I finally got around to it because the same thing Caitlin said. Everybody's saying, "Oh, it's so good! You gotta see it. It's so good!" And you're like, "Okay, how good can this be?" And you go, and after my first viewing, I was like, "Oh wow!" It wasn't what I expected. I managed to stay spoiler free, which is great. So for everybody that is listening to this and not seen the movie, sorry, you're spoiled. But this movie is, for me, this is close to an annual viewing around this time of year. Mm-hmm. But like you said, like there's been a couple years where I take it off, and then when you come back to it, it's almost like a fine wine. It gets better as it ages. Yeah. I have to say the CGI holds up fantastic, except the final 2 seconds, like Jamie said. That is not a great scene.
It's just stupid. It just looks stupid.
It would be unnecessary.
It is unnecessary. I think. Sorry. I don't.
No, you're good.
Stupid. It just...
No, it would have been if you had like a rising head of like Cthulhu or something. That would have probably been cooler. But the hand is kind of dumb. But it's awesome. I love it. The biggest thing for me, and it's amazing how much I missed the first time I saw it. Like the bird getting smashed into that thing.
I love that scene because it's so early too, and you're just like, oh fuck, something like.
Yeah, once that happened, I totally missed it. I'm like, oh, something killed that bird. I just like, I don't know why I didn't see it. And then it's just each time you watch it, you pick up on something new here and there. But my favorite thing is the merman. I love the merman.
The blowhole.
I have a thing about the merman, but we'll get there after Eli and Dave go.
That may even be one of my questions. But Eli, tell me about your experience, your first experience, and then your latest experience with your favorite movie in the world, The Cabin.
No, it's not Antlers.
It's not Antlers. It's not Antlers. I'm probably going to be the lone voice of reason tonight, and I'm fine with that. As the Mole King, I'm strong, and I can withstand, deal with these shenanigans. The first time I watched this was back when Mary and I first started dating. She's like, "Oh my God, you got to watch this." I know, like the trailers I saw, I wasn't super impressed. I didn't really give 3 flying squirrel nuts about this movie, but we watched it and I did not like it. Did not like it at all. We've run into this.
The relationship survived.
Well, she this time around when I was like, we're watching it, and I'm like, gonna watch it again. The second time I was like, I hate that movie. She's like, what? If I'd have known that, things would have been different.
There were calls for divorce on the old Twitter.
I'm like, you did know that. Like I say, every time you put it on, I'm like, I'm not watching this movie. I'm going downstairs or whatever. I do.
That's called marriage, where one is not listening to the other.
Exactly.
My Bigfoot just fell off and hit me.
Oh, no. It's a sign, Eli.
Fuck you.
It's not a sign. But I always give movies a second chance. Like when we put on the list, even if I know I don't like it, I'll watch it. Midsummer, I turned around on, and I really enjoyed Midsummer. This one, I don't hate this movie. I get what it's trying to do. I just don't like it. I don't think they do it well at parts. I think they go a little too ham-fisted. Like, I get the whole meta thing they're trying to do and like the message and everything, but this whole movie, I feel like I was sitting in the theater and they beat the dead horse. They're like, "You see me beating the dead horse?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then like they keep beating it and they're looking at me. I'm like, "Okay, I get it." So then they pick the dead horse up and start beating me with it. They're like, "We just want to make sure you got it." And I'm like, "Okay, I get it. I get it." Like I get what they're trying to do, but like it just was like just one thing, meta thing. It was like it was almost too meta. And it wasn't like I get meta can be hard to handle. Like
it's not a nuanced movie, but I don't think they were trying to make a nuanced movie.
No, I don't think so. But I think there's like that fine line where it's like, oh, it's meta. Like, okay, cool. And it's just like, all right, Jesus, okay, it's meta. I get it. I will say this though. So on the second walk, like there are some lines, like that stoner character, like a lot of his lines, I laugh at. And I remember laughing at the first time. The two corporate guys, I laugh at a lot with some of their lines. I do like some of the looks of the creatures are cool. And like when they're going on the elevators, you're seeing the different like bases off of like real horror. Like I get it. Like some of those are cool. And like, oh, okay, I know who that's supposed to be. My only problem with this is like besides the meta, and like I don't consider this a horror movie really. Like to me this is a comedy that they're doing a meta in the horrorverse because like. They kind of start out with the killers that like hillbilly zombie family and like no one gives a shit about them. Like they're kind of pointless and then I get frustrated because some of the other monsters they showed or like things I would rather them been more involved or like even show me different ones, have different ones come in, not just don't make me spend 3/4 of the movie with the most boring hillbilly zombie family in the flipping world. That it's no wonder they survived because like they were shit. So like I get frustrated because like the parts I think could have made this movie cool, like I would have made this movie enjoy it more for me. They're just kind of like, we're gonna jam it all in the last like 15 fucking minutes and good luck.
Your experience with the monsters, it's almost as if that may be a comment they were making.
I was about to say, as I'm listening to Eli, it's like it's almost as if they made this movie talking about certain people.
Listen, I get what they're trying to say, but the problem is they beat me in the head so much. They can't just throw
a woman in a volcano. You wouldn't appreciate it.
I understand that, but my problem is they beat me in the head with the meta so much that. To me, like that kind of takes the forefront of this movie, and which I get, like that's trying to do, but like to me, okay, well now you just overblown your point. It's pointless now. Like that's how I see things. Like if you're gonna beat me in the face and hold my hand, and drag me through, like, oh, do you see what we're doing? Do you see what we're saying? Ha 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 ha! And I'm like, I got it 5 minutes ago. Like okay, cool, all right. And like there's like to me, there's movies, there's other movies that's done this a lot better. Like I said, I don't hate this movie. Just don't give 3 flying monkey nuts about it.
Fair enough.
Dave, before you move on, I have one thing I just have to say. I want everyone in the audience to take note. Eli said he'll give every movie a second chance.
I do.
That includes
Antlers.
That movie I would never give a second chance.
Oh no!
Listen, he immediately does a 180.
There is always an exception to the rule. Antlers is my exception. I will never watch that piece of shit again. I was offended the first time. I will not be offended a second time. There are some things that can be redeemable, that can age. I can grow and learn to appreciate as I get older.
I will
Antlers is not it. Not Antlers. Nope.
Every movie is
not that movie.
Dave,
there's always an exception to the rule. Always an exception. Antlers is my exception.
Antlers is your exception to a lot of things.
Yeah, it is. I
just take exception to it.
Listen, I always try to find a good thing to say about a movie. And I went back and rewatched because I was worried. I was like, maybe I came off too harsh for Antlers. I did give a compliment to the only redeemable thing in that movie, which was that boy. So I said the one good thing about it, and now it can die.
I'm regretting bringing this up. Dave, please.
You should have.
Well, this was a theater watch. Now, and I don't know if Jamie remembers this when you watched it in the theaters. I think to be a movie, and we're going to get into it in a minute, that was definitely a kind of neglected stepchild kind of movie. It did not have a ton of marketing behind it, but the marketing that they did do did a really good job of showing you that the movie was going to be something different without giving away the gimmick at all. When it first came out, the trailers, they didn't really show their hand at all. They showed you that it was going to be clever and funny, but not how they were going to do that, that it was going to be
I don't remember
trippy.
that. It's funny when you guys bring it forward because it seems like we're the only two who saw it in theaters, but I can't remember what convinced me to go see it besides it's a horror movie, because unlike everybody who heard hype after, I heard nothing. I did know nothing about it.
And that was a magical
what
experience.
Convinced us to go see it because I don't remember what the marketing was. Because honestly, they could market this movie to look like a typical. I mean, obviously that's the point. Like it could look like a cliche, typical. But I have no idea what drove me to the theater to see it.
Yeah. Other than, like you said, it being a cabin in the woods horror movie.
Yeah,
you're going to see all those. I'm going to see all those. But I do remember that the marketing did a really good job of walking that line, which is a hard thing to do with a movie like this without dipping your hand. But it had some star power at that point when they put it out. So they were going to get people to come to the theater, so they didn't have to show a lot of hooks to get people in. This movie is 100%, and I know that Goddard and Whedon had both said this. This is sort of a love letter to a genre that they both love. They take the tropes and they do some really smart stuff with them. I loved the critique on horror tropes that they did in this, because even in this last watching, I know the movie well enough that I know there are some things that are cringe in it, but if you really pay attention to the cringy scenes, they are commentary on that trope becoming cringe. It was cringe before it was cringe because it was a trope in all of these kinds of movies. And I think it's really smart the way they kind of handled that. It wasn't done lightly. I'll put it that way. Or I don't get the sense that it was done lightly. I think
it was thoughtful. It was all thoughtful. Yeah.
But it was 100% the trope too. It was 100% the trope too. I mean, they leaned into, and we'll get into kind of what we're talking about here in a minute. But
it's the boobs of it all, Dave. You don't have to say it. It's the boobs of it all.
Yeah, it's the gays of the first third of this movie. But even when they're in Dana's apartment before they even leave, and of course she's in her underwear. Yeah. But they keep it framed up other than a couple of shots. But they make a joke of it at the end.
Oh, you're in Hemsworth. You're in your underwear.
Yeah, you're not wearing pants. But I kind of got the sort of primer for the movie in that scene, even when I saw it in the theaters, when Hemsworth is joking with his girlfriend about, who gave you those? Who taught you about those? I learned it from watching you. And you realize, oh, he's playing the meathead, but he's playing it ironically, even self-aware as the character. It's pretty interesting the way it's kind of meta inception within the way the characters are all fully aware of which characters they are within the experience of the movie, which I found really cool. Some of the best creature design, I mean, like you said, John, holds up 100% today. And I would argue, and I think Jamie jumped in on it too, Eli, 100%. I think the whole point of the system purge was to make a commentary on why does every Cabin in the Woods movie end up with some murder, death cult, zombie, the same thing all the time.
I get it. I get what they were trying to say. But, and I know we'll get into more trouble, but by that point, I've went 19 rounds with Mike Tyson tropes that like it's just like, all right, I get it. But give me something.
They did. They gave you Merman.
Oh, Merman.
Yeah, I guess.
Merman.
And the system purge is sort of the magnus opus of this entire movie.
God,
it's just
it's
a
so
set of scenes. It's
good.
like what we always, and again,
it's
I think
melee.
it is that.
What else could we have wanted,
So I'm going to open it up to overall questions and discussions, and I'm going to let Caitlin, do you have anything any curiosities in your first watch that you wanted to jump in or dive deeper in?
This isn't really a question, but I was digging around on the IMDb trivia, and when they're jumping in the lake and all of them are in the lake and the only one that doesn't get in is Marty. Apparently they didn't have him get in the lake and they had dressed him in really baggy clothes because he was as jacked as the other two guys, but they needed to have him be like the burnout. So like the fact that they dressed him in like really baggy clothes, like they were like, no, you can't take off your shirt. You look you look like the other guys. We need you to be a stoner. Which like a stoner can be jacked, but I remember thinking that was really funny from from the
That is
IMDb trivia.
hilarious. Yeah.
But I really like, I was going to ask about any favorite characters. I really like Marty.
Oh yeah, Marty, and I made a point of this. I think Marty is 100% my favorite character because he is the classic jester in a story. Like the jester's in on the joke. The jester knows what's going on, and he's sort of the voice of wisdom from a comedic standpoint. And I think Marty did, or the way that character was written was fantastic at that. Because even
he's the smartest one in the room.
Yeah, he was stoned out of his mind, but he knew exactly what was going on, even if he didn't really know it. Everything he thought and said was on point, which I thought was fantastic.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, go. I truly to this movie, and I'm not saying that. I just think to this movie and the plot, like my favorite characters are the two facility guys. Like I can't watch this movie without them.
The game makers.
They're just like, they kind of hit me with all my favorite moments, I think, in this movie.
And I love Richard Jenkins in most everything he does.
Yeah, I mean, they're both. I love both of them. Yeah, I love them both in a lot of things. But yeah, sorry, Eli. Go.
No, you're good. So I would say I like the stoner, and like I like the scenes where he was the one addressing the meta, like the lone meta person. I liked, and I think I would have liked that better if that was the premise they went. And like I don't know if I call it nuance, but I think like it was really funny, like when like everybody's doing this weird stuff, or like he's like, why are we doing this? Don't do this.
Don't read the Latin.
I dare you all to go upstairs. Like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? Like, what are you talking about? Like, and like that, those are really funny. But then when like everybody's like meta, like it cut the comedy for me out from underneath him, because now it's just like, oh well, we have one clown, and now I'm just staring at a shoebox full of a bunch of clowns. Like, I don't know. Okay, but yeah, the stoner guy. No, yeah, stoner guy.
John, favorite character?
I'm with Jamie on this one. It's the corporate employee facilitators, man. Without them, you don't have this movie.
The funny thing about that, in this last watch, I had the experience of Richard Jenkins' character. He's the older guy with the glasses. If you don't know who Richard Jenkins is, he's in everything.
Yeah, he's also in the new series Dahmer.
Well, and that was the point I was going to make, because the character he plays in Dahmer, which I'm enjoying quite a bit and dreading at the same time, is he plays Dahmer's dad, who is a guy who's away at work all the time. So I, in my brain, have decided that this is Dahmer's dad at work.
This is Lionel.
It's the same.
Lionel's job.
It makes perfect sense if you think about it.
That's dark.
Really good headcanon.
That's dark.
I have a question. I mean, I have a couple questions, like some fun, but this is just one before we get to like fun, silly questions. But like, does this movie, here's a little bit to go over my head, but like, does this movie get lost? Two things. Does this movie get lost in anybody who's not a horror fan, period? Like, if someone goes into this blind, like just barely watching horror movies, do you think they can enjoy it just take it at face value? But also, like, do you think you have to be a horror fan? Because like the overall story of people, us being the gods. First of all, we didn't really say what even happens in this movie, or what they are told, or what the whole point of the movie is. But the gods being like us, or the general audience, or whatever, like, I guess that applies to any movie, right? But I think the horror community is the harshest. Yeah. There's not like a drama community, let's be honest. Like, there's not even like a comedy community. There's really just a horror community when it comes to genres of movies. Like sci-fi is a big one. Maybe rom-coms, or like we know fantasy. A lot of Hallmark fans, fantasy.
I mean, Marvel.
But yeah, I mean, the comments
Marvel's
they're making.
Like a thing.
Oh no, they have a whole community. Like, those people are probably harsher than horror fans.
Marvel people scare me a little bit.
Yeah, I get comic book fans, but I guess I'm putting them like in.
But the structure of this movie, I mean, these are archetypes. These are story archetypes. They're in most every kind of story, whether it's a comedy, tragedy. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. So, like, does it not matter?
I think there's a reference point. Now, the tropes are very much genre tropes. I mean, I think the solution or the calculations they're making between how the story's progressing is very hard. But as far as the characters and things, I think most people would be able to pick up who they're referencing with each of those characters.
But see, even go ahead, Caleb.
They would know what it's referencing, but I don't think that they would approach it with the tenderness that horror fans are.
They would think it's stupid, right?
They would think it's like, funny. Like, they would laugh in the wrong way, because and like I don't know. My instinct is to be like, oh, they would like it for us. Like, they'd be like, oh, I like that for you. But I had the displeasure of watching some horror movies with non-horror people recently, and them just like laughing. I know it's like a standard response when you're scared of something to laugh at it, because it's like it makes you feel like oh it's just stupid anyway, like I don't even care, it's stupid, look how dumb it is. And I was like, wow, you really can't enjoy this. And I don't know, it really made me kind of bummed. And I feel like if people don't have sort of this background with horror, I'm not trying to like gatekeep this movie, but like if you're not a horror person, it's not going to mean the same thing to you. You're going to be like, oh yeah, look, like dumb blonde with her tits out, classic. But for us, it's like, hey, dumb blonde with her tits out, hey,
well,
like,
yeah, a lot of the references, a lot of the references, I guess you just don't get. So it's just
you won't get it in a different
and when you
way,
do,
but it's not tender for you. It's like, I don't know. That's my conceit, is that like they would kind of like intellectually understand it, but they wouldn't have the same fondness for it that we have these like soft spots for. Like, okay, like let's watch the jock get totally wrecked. Let's watch, let's watch the bimbo get, taken out. Like, because
I was reading like things that came out after the movie, because then I was like, I want like a little bit of the general consensus, because I don't remember it at all, besides this becoming like a horror favorite. Like I can't even call it a cult classic, because it's not. It's like it's well reviewed, so like I was reading someone who must have had seen it early, and this was not like on streaming, this was like in theaters, wrote their piece on it. It was like literally the title was Cabin in the Woods is a huge metaphor, and then they went on this whole thing, and like people in the comments just calling this person a moron, the person who wrote it, because like they took this very literal, this movie at face value, which is totally fine too, but then told her that it's the stupidest movie, and like how could you know what I mean? And like, so then I just started thinking, is this just people that don't like, I'm not even gonna say don't get like just don't get horror tropes, or these people who just don't have a fondness for horror, so they just think this is a terrible movie. Like, I get Eli that you could. Well, no, I could say Eli. I was about to say I could understand you also like horror and don't get. That's fine though, because at least you're very like you have reasons for
know the reference, yeah.
Right. But what I would argue, like I guess what I'm arguing is like, I think a lot of the the kind of meta approach they take to horror in this is all very kind of pop culture surface level ones. Like, so I think most people know like these like there wasn't any like, to me, like, I mean, at some points, but like if you missed it, I don't think it would affect anybody. But most of like the in your face meta is like on the surface pop culture level horror that everybody kind of knows. All these tropes that are famous have been famous since the 70s.
No, so but I'm talking about the whole thing of like this movie, like the gods representing us and us never being satisfied with horror, and they keep trying to come up with things, and they have to, that whole plot line.
Right, but the argument, like I think I'm making with this is, they have this movie is jam packed from wall to wall with like this surface level meta approach look at horror that I think a lot of people like. If you're not a horror fan and you just see, oh, this just is a movie of like this meta to like, they're not going to appreciate like that, which I get, and like I get that as a horror person, I knew what they were going for, but I think a lot of people, they're not going to look that deep, because it's like at the surface this movie's just one kind of meta trope right after another. Like there's funny parts, and I think they do the funny parts well, but like you don't care about anybody. Like if you're not a horror person and you're going in with that look like, oh, I get what this is a letter to horror, whatever, but like most people are like, why do I care then? Because they don't really build up any characters or anything. They don't build up the monsters.
They don't have to though, because of this movie. Yeah.
Well, because it's nothing but tropes. Like that's their whole point, which I get. But like, if you're not a horror person, you understand the tropes they're doing because they've been in pop culture for years. But
see, I don't know if you do. I don't know if everybody does.
I won't argue. I don't argue with you, because if you think about like, you got.
Have you met people? They're pretty.
I have. I hate them all. I hate them all.
When I read these comments, I was like, I couldn't believe that people like this exist. First of all, and it wasn't saying that they're stupid or ignorant. It was just how rude and just how they refuse to accept someone's view on a movie.
Well, that's the internet. That's the internet for it.
Of it. I know, but I stay away from a lot of it because for that reason. But like,
you can't. The internet always comes for you.
No, it's not.
So, Caitlin, make your counterpoint. You know, you were kind of pushing back on Eli there.
Oh, let's do this. We going to go?
No, I don't. I'm not trying to incite an argument. I mean, I've already lost your sword to Jeff. I'm just saying,
son of a bitch.
You know, it seemed like I do think this is a big point of the movie, and you're saying it's very shallow and one dimensional, and it seemed like Caitlin was reacting to that, which I'm also reacting to that.
Yeah, well, just in reference to Jamie's original question, like, does this look different, or can a non-horror person, and like, again, it sounds gatekeepy, but like, appreciate it in the same way? And I think the answer is no. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, in the same way that I probably couldn't appreciate, I don't know, wasn't that like Valentine's Day movie supposed to be like a rom-com, like meta rom-com thing? Like, I probably wouldn't get that. And that's okay, because it's not my thing. But like, just having tried to show people recently, like, that things that I love in horror that they really don't get, and that's on me. Like, they don't get it, they don't like it, that's on me, that was my fault. But sort of having that sort of like, heart-falling experience where it's like, not only do you not get it, you like really don't like it.
Yeah,
so
you're marginalizing it for me. So like, when we see the blonde girl taking her top off, like, for us it's like, oh yeah, like, that's like, of course, that's what we Friday the 13th, like, I get it. Or like, when we see like the Cenobite looking dude, like, that means something to us, and that wouldn't register with everyone, is my sort of like butting up against Eli, because I didn't think that originally, but the more I'm around, and not even like this term, like normies, but like a non-horror people, I'm like, oh, like, our references are very, very different. Right.
Well, and that's fine, but I don't think it means the same thing, because to us it's a tender reflection for the most part, unless you're Eli, and for other people it's a like, oh yeah, stupid.
I'm not saying they have the same reaction, but I mean, if you go to most people and you show them the big heavy hitters, right? Michael, most people know who Michael is, most people know about Freddy, most people, I would argue, know Pinhead, like, they know to look, they've seen them in pop culture. And I think this movie, it jams pack all these shallow level meta pop culture or meta references that are in pop culture. Like, everybody knows, like, you know, with horror, even if you don't like horror, like, if you're a teenage guy, you're trying to see a naked girl, you watch a horror movie because there's gonna be one. Like, that's a thing growing up in high school. Like, even guys I knew that didn't like horror would watch these basic entry level horror movies.
If I took Freddy, Michael, and Jason and showed them to like 100%. A random person, I don't know that everyone could label them.
No, I legit have one of my best friends who I made. This is not a joke. I made a cross stitch for my other friend's 8-year-old. She's into horror, whatever, and it had classic people on there.
Those are the big three.
One. Yeah, like one.
I would argue those people are in the minority then, because they have been on so much pop culture. I mean, you're talking about
they know Chucky because he's iconic.
Well,
but that's
but I would argue like
even
know
what
Michael,
we're arguing is still not meta commentary. So
right.
I'm like with Caitlin, like, okay, they know who Jason is, but the things that this movie like says and does, and I'm even talking about the fact that they can't appease horror fans no matter what they give us. And that's like a horror thing.
What I'm arguing is like, they go deeper in some areas, but they put too much of those top level stuff. Like, that's what they fill this whole movie out with. Like, if they don't have a part that goes with their deeper message, it's filled with base level stuff that most people know, like these horror tropes. A lot of people don't like horror movies because of some of these base level tropes, right? And I think that they kind of shoot themselves in the foot. And I don't know if they gatekeep, but I think a lot of, like, besides me, just because I'm curmudgeon, a lot of people that might not like this, that don't like horror, like, I think they get it because of all the base level stuff, but they kind of put too much shit in their bag that they're not going to look any deeper, because they're like, oh,
that's my initial question though. Thank you. My initial question was, do you not get the deeper meaning of the movie if you don't get horror?
Yeah.
I think you actually hate this movie if you don't get horror, to be honest, just because how could you even enjoy the funny or like Caitlin, you said the things that speak to a horror fan in like a heartwarming way. How do you even get them if you're like not a horror fan, really?
Well, I think it comes from a place of cynicism, like, oh, of course she's going to take off her top.
I guess
that's the point. That's the point. If she takes off her top.
Yeah,
she had to. She had to.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make to your earlier point, Eli, about it being shallow. I think there is a surface level thing, and we're talking around this one scene, which is a critical scene to discuss this issue in, with Kurt and Jules having their sort of love scene out in the meadow area, and she gets topless.
The adjustment with the moonlight, I must say, and like the temperature
and the
was
pheromones
like really doing it for
me. Pheromones and the temperature.
Very Suzanne Collins from Hunger Games was like, yes, I'm going to use this.
But you have these frames, and obviously, you know, if I'm a a hobbyist in the horror genre or not a horror fan at all, I can see that and I know what they're doing. And literally in the movie, when they're getting to the crescendo of her undressing, it hard cuts to a full frame of a bunch of dudes gawking back at you, like gawking right back at the camera and having this experience, and then them saying, okay, you animals, get out of here. But then the two guys are still like saying, show me the money, and they're having this experience. And then you have the security guard literally say, do we have to watch this? And they kind of defend of, it's required. Like, it's part of what the older gods, who are the audience, the horror audience, requires this to be part of the sacrifice.
When he comes back in.
So there is this surface thing of everybody can see that hard shot of everybody staring at gawking at the camera and go, oh yeah, a bunch of dudes gawking over a girl taking her top off. But then there is this added dimension of that the director and the writer, they get that, and they're making a comment on it. They're making a point that it's not because necessarily they are having to do it, it's because it's required.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. But if they would have had like the stoner guy and like that guard, like if they were like the ones that was addressing the meta, I think, and to me, I think I would have liked this better, because a movie that does meta really well is Deadpool, right? And it talks about a lot of tropes in superhero movies, but there's only one meta character. Everybody else is not like, and they may be tropes, but it's not just trope. Where like in this, my problem is it was hard for me to enjoy because you're hitting me in the face with what you're trying to say. And like other people that like, this could be a good entry level. I don't know if I consider horror, but like it could be, because it's really not that scary. I mean, it's got some blood and stuff, but like this could have been a cool.
Yeah, I don't think I'd use it as a primer. I think it'd be very confusing as a primer.
Well, but I think the way they did it now, but I think if they would have done the trope and the meta stuff better, or in my head or my argument, I think this could have been a fun movie. Like this could have been like, oh, you recognize some of these. Let's get a little bit deeper. Well, it could have actually been a door to a lot of people might be like, oh, I want to kind of dip my toe in this. Like a lot of people don't like superhero movies, but they like Deadpool. And like I think Deadpool is something that does meta well, and like this just didn't. That's my argument.
I would argue though that if you don't watch a lot of superhero comics, you wouldn't get Deadpool either though. Like I just think like a lot of these things, like
you may not get the inner jokes
if you're not immersed in that community.
You can still enjoy something and not get everything. I would argue that people like Deadpool don't understand a lot of it, but they don't. Deadpool doesn't make you hard because you have one meta character, and like it's full of a bunch of tropes, and people that recognize those, they love it, and they love the messaging, and like he's talking like the superhero land thing. People that don't understand the superhero landing, they still find that funny. Like it makes it even funnier if you're in on the joke. Whereas this is, to me, it was hard for me to enjoy it. Like I understand what's going on here, but you're beating me in the face with what's happening. So now I'm just like, okay, who gives a shit? That's my argument. What do I know? I'm just the Mole King.
Well, I've got a couple of questions here that I was curious about. You know, we've answered one of them, which was just the meta commentary. And I would suggest that this movie, sort of like Scream did in the 90s, in the 2010s, this movie had the same impact on the industry of when it started bringing some of these things to the forefront from a meta conversations thing. You can see at least slasher movies kind of adjust off of some of the things that they were commenting on here, which I thought was good. I do think it had an impact on it. Wasn't a question, Eli, so you don't.
I wasn't answering. I'm just making my faces because I'm like,
I understand.
I'm not gonna say anything. I'm making my faces. Okay. I have a face. It does things sometimes.
I have a face. I have a face. Eli quote. Isolate that audio.
I want that on a T-shirt.
But I do have, a question, and one of the main points of this movie is why we as humans gravitate towards this archetype formula. Why do you think this is? I mean, these are the
He's
exact same.
Carl Jung with it.
These are the same. These are the same kind of archetypes that you're going to find in. We talked about Avengers. All of these archetypes are represented there. You've got them in Star Wars. Why do we need that? Why do we need this sort of system of functionality to enjoy a classic storyline?
We like patterns. It makes us feel comfortable, I think. And I don't know. I feel like it gives us a little sense of control. We're like, oh, well, she's the good one, so she'll probably suffer the least.
Right.
So, I think, but that's like our dumb brain. Like that's not maybe how we should be, but that's where we feel comfortable, I think, is finding these patterns and feeling like we know what's going to happen next, even if we like don't consciously realize that.
Right. Yeah. The whole comment on the virgin being, she doesn't have to die.
It doesn't matter as long as she's last. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or how about we work with what we got?
Exactly.
Like, yes. Oh, I love that line. That's so good. Yeah. She's like,
Pretty sure we started this movie with her sleeping with her teacher.
Professor?
So
Yeah.
yeah. Professor.
But no, I do think it's interesting, just because, and to your point, I guess that's probably part of it, is it gives us a sort of a comfort of reference of who we're going to be dealing with. But the problem with that is now you've got, not starting with, but this movie and then a lot of movies like it will take those archetype assumptions and then turn them on their head.
Well, those subvert it so that you're rooting for, like, X is maybe not the best example, but like, so that you're rooting for the horror using like this movie's sort of tropes, like
vernacular.
Yeah, she's the one that it's not Jenna Ortega, spoiler for X, like it's not her that survives, it's Pearl, or it's Maxine, who is a literal porn star. But like, so now we're subverting that a lot. But you're right, I think that changed, maybe not because of this movie, but like around that time.
Yeah, you start thinking about it. Yeah, it's definitely part of that postmodern mentality of what art was doing at that time. I just found it interesting. Any other thoughts on that?
I'd probably say it's a little bit habitual too, because if you think about, we've used stories as a communication tool for thousands of years. And
it's in our DNA,
right? And it was always used to teach a lesson, and I kind of think that's something just engraved in all of us, and like that's, I don't necessarily know if it was people were like it's copying it, but I think it's just that's what our brains, when people write stories, automatically go to. Because even if you look at stories that were considered blasphemous at the time, like Dracula or Frankenstein, like they still followed that story. I mean, sometimes it would kind of deviate here or there, but it's still the same kind of, you know.
Well, and that's what I love about Marty. I mean, there's a couple of them, but one of the scenes that I always enjoy is when he's kind of calling out what's going on. Like, why is Kurt a double major who's on a full academic ride using words like egghead? Like he's the social commentary on what audiences are expecting and why we're still getting these crap story assumptions or these crap characters from the 70s and stuff. Like, why is he talking like this? It's literally making the question in the story, which I think is fantastic.
That's one of my favorite scenes. That, and then also when she's like dancing real provocatively for no reason by the thing, and he's like, what's happening? What is she doing?
Are we supposed to? Yeah.
Like, I would have liked this movie a lot if it was just him being the one that notices that commentating. Like, I would have loved that so much more. But like,
well, that's what I like about this. Like when when they're in the basement and he's like, don't read the Latin, and there's like, open it, read it. He's like, what the? Like, let's go upstairs. Like,
I dare you all to go upstairs. I dare you all to go upstairs.
I love Marty.
Yeah, my favorite is when he's locked in his room and the whisper starts going, "Go for a walk," and he's like, "I am a independent thinker. I'm going for a walk." Like at the end of the day, he's still part of this story. He's still kind of led by his nose to do the same things, but at least he's kind of aware that this is happening and doesn't get it.
Love him.
It's good stuff. And I just think it's hilarious now that you mentioned that he was jacked the whole time, like he was Hemsworth level cuts. They did a good job making a Shaggy out of him. Yeah,
they're like, okay, wear your hair like this, like.
Which even that is sort of a comment on what they're doing with character. Like, you can't be the jester in the pool and look like that. Lake or whatever. Yeah. That goes across character.
You can't be a hot stoner. You can't be a good-looking burnout.
Which I don't know. I thought that was a weird thing because like that they kind of got away from that trope in the 2000s, because you see a lot of like these jockey characters that smoked a bunch of weed and like wanted to go to the woods and do stuff and drink and do drugs, and like they were built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So like that's what's kind of weird. Like they used a bunch of these like beasts. I've said my piece on it.
Well, they use classic.
Well, right.
They had to use that like the 80s, the 70s tropes, like.
Right, I 100% agree. That's why part of my argument earlier.
Oh, it sounded earlier.
Yeah,
I get
that's why I was like trying to think. I was like, they used all these like basic level stuff. That was that's why a lot of people know this stuff. But it's like
I get what you're saying with that, but I just don't think people don't. I just don't. whatever. We're not going back there. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm not fighting with you. We fight enough. I don't need to fight with you. We've been on like good terms lately. I'm not letting this it's just not.
All right. You want? Are we doing a little truces?
We only fight with the ones we love.
Trucy. Yeah, you helped me get a. You helped me get a computer.
I did.
Like, you know,
I did. Wasn't I nice about it? Was I nice about it? Yeah.
Yes, you were very helpful.
Okay, Trucy. We'll do a Trucy.
So one more question, and then we'll move on down the road. And this is more of a fun one than anything.
I have fun ones too.
Oh, cool.
Maybe the same.
They might be the same. Yeah, because it's something that Eli, and I'm going to let him answer first. It's something that he mentioned earlier. So what is each of yours merman? What is the creature or character that you would have preferred to have, since you didn't like the pain worshiping torture?
Wait, like that zombies. We would pick from
from the zoo,
from the movie, from that whole, from the cubes.
Yeah.
Who would you pick? I had my answer, but I'm not trying to.
Me personally. See, I got two. I really like how their werewolf looked, and because I feel like a lot of movies don't do werewolves right, but I really liked how their werewolf looked, and I also like their version of Pinhead, because it's more like an industrial like demon thing, and like there's that scene where like you kind of get a glimpse of other Cenobites. They got that person hung up in a stairwell, and like they got like these industrial machine type things. I'm like, oh, that'd been kind of cool.
You know what his name was, and I found this in the credits. You know what that character's name is, because it's fantastic.
Is it Sawhead?
It's gotta be it's gotta be like
it's Fornicus, Lord of Bondage and Pain.
Oh, I like that.
Fornicus.
I like that.
I would like to have that on your resume.
Oh man, I feel like I want to change my name to that.
So I have some info with my answer though. What's that?
Sure,
like
go ahead.
It's like it's got numerous parts to it. So of the things in the movie, there's two things. Like Eli, I actually want the fake Pinhead too, but that's also because I really like Hellraiser, and like I think, you know, it's just a cool concept, and seeing things like creatures like that are cool. When I went to Halloween Horror Nights, the first time I went, guys, I missed the first. It took me like 20 years to get there. They did Cabin in the Woods. Now they did Cabin in the Woods, and I got to go into all the cubes and whatever. And that guy who looks exactly like he does in the movie. I'm like sitting there all excited and like, I'm all excited, whatever. And because this is how I go through houses, and I'm talking because that's what I do. And I'm telling Matt to look at something, and he's like right in front of me, like outside the cube. Like he followed me through like the cubes, and then I'm like turning to talk, and I turn around, and he's like standing like right there outside the cube. So I had my mini moment with him, and it just made me so happy, because like you feel like you're it, like, you know, whatever. I did see they did the merman too, but like
very cool.
My complaint is that I think Fornicus got way too much screen time. They came back, the camera comes back to him, and I was like, give me somebody else. I've seen Fornicus.
The other thing in those cubes that I would have liked to see, and this just goes to little trivia, is that, and I feel like of anybody, Eli might probably knows this, is that there was supposed to be a Left 4 Dead 2, the video game, tie-in to Cabin in the Woods. It's very upset that it did not happen. But in the cubes, for those who may not know, the monsters from Left 4 Dead are in some of those cubes, including the witch, which is one of my all-time favorite video game like villains, if you call her that. And I would have liked to have seen her do something.
She would wreck a bunch of kids.
I fucking love her. Yes. She's like a dream like Halloween costume one day, but like she's basically also half naked. So it's just like I just can't bring myself to do it.
No, thank you.
That would be like a 20-minute movie, though. It would take her no time at all to run through those.
Not if you shotgun her in the head.
So sorry, I just had some fun little things with that, but like, so I got my Pinhead moment in real life, kind of, and the witch, which like I would love to see her in anything, really.
What about you, John?
I'm kind of stuck on the merman myself, because I love the creature of the Black Lagoon. Like that's like it's kind of dorky looking. He doesn't look like he's scary, but he takes care of business.
He's nasty.
Yeah, but the one thing I don't know how I missed this, or just didn't remember, is the Strangers crew, or were there, and those masks creep me the hell out.
Yeah, the porcelain masks.
Oh yeah, but I think the one thing that would have been cool is that I didn't see would be one of those plague doctors.
Oh yeah,
that would have been really super cool.
I will say
those masks creep me out.
I like their version of their Stranger's mask, because it reminded me a lot of, if anybody's a comic book fan, Batman: The Court of Owls. It reminds me of the mask they wore.
Oh yeah.
I was like, that's pretty neat. I did like their look.
What about you, Caitlin?
I had to pull up a list of the folks that were on the whiteboard, which is not an exhaustive list. There are, others that weren't on the whiteboard. But on the whiteboard was sexy witches, which is, but that's what I would want to be. I would want to be a sexy witch. So that's maybe not.
I don't think we got to see them, did we?
No.
I would have liked to have seen them.
Yeah.
Same.
I like some of the animal ones are really scary, like the big snake. There's one that's just says dragon bat. I don't know if I remember seeing that or not, but all of those were scarier than I thought they would be,
The unicorn death is fantastic.
That was hilarious.
I love
when that's
death.
on, I don't even want to say TV because I feel like I've only watched it maybe on movie channels. They cut that scene out for some reason. Of all the things, the unicorn is cut.
If I remember, I read something about people were complaining because unicorns are not
they're not evil, man.
They're not evil, and they're little girls like them.
No.
And they take it out because they don't want,
Well, speaking
Whatever.
of little girls, I actually what Kyoto is experiencing, I think would scare the shit out of me. I love that it's happening in other places. It's like when movies about finance have clocks for all the different time zones.
Yeah.
And it's what's going on in China, but they have a screen and it's these little Japanese children being haunted by Ringo type,
but they whoop
Sadako
her
type monster.
ass.
They're like, we are Care Bears, and
when he screams at the monitor, it's just hilarious.
Fuck you, fuck you.
But that was, I like that they were the Japanese kids have more Japanese tropes. I was like, chef's kiss.
Exactly.
Good. Of course they do. That makes so much sense. I love it.
Yeah, and each city around the world that they showed, it showed their tropes. There was King Kong, and there was all the different classic monsters from each of these regions. I thought it was fantastic. Again, I enjoyed that. You had mentioned, Caitlin, the whiteboard, just a fun little piece of trivia. If you look at it, if you freeze frame it and look at it, there's Kevin is one of the
I was just about to talk about Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Good old serial killer Kevin.
Yeah.
That's
I think
the
it's
vibe.
Jason. Is it just Jason? Kevin?
Oh, okay.
No, it's
I
Kevin
think it's
from Sin City.
Yeah, it's Kevin from Sin City, but they also developed that he would be
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know
Isn't that fantastic?
Okay. I was gonna say Kevin. It's just Kevin.
Jason, yeah.
Yeah, I thought is it Jason? Is it
No, it's the Kevin from Sin City, apparently.
They did have a Jason-like guy, but they had bag over his head Jason.
I saw him.
Yeah.
They show him in the Flash. The guy with the plastic bag, right?
Yep.
And he's isn't he suffocating another guy?
Yeah, he's with
real fast?
another plastic bag. Yeah.
I love that scene. I know we've said it, but I think that's what we're talking about. When they cut from just monster to monster to what's going on. It is so insane to see the different tropes that they all fit in there in the span of 30 seconds.
They were all better than the fucking Buckners.
And
but think about Eli. If they gave you a whole movie of all of that, it's not going to be as enjoyable.
No,
that movie would be a mess. Yeah.
I totally get that. But of all the choices they could have went with, I would have rather them do something if you're going on the trope train, go to the trope train. Give me the Lone Silent or something. You literally went with a bunch of fucking zombie hillbillies that is not a common trope.
They had to do Deadite type.
Yeah, but
They didn't have to, Caitlin.
I love when he has to tell the difference between the hillbilly zombie family.
Yeah,
and
that lady's
zombies.
I had zombies, and he's no, babe, you had. This is different.
Everything those guys say is just pure gold in that movie. Everything.
And it's funny that Eli's making this argument because that's literally what they argue to each other. Why is it them again?
Yeah,
it's literally the conversation that they're.
You can't do a prop as a book. It's too easy.
I get the tropes thing, but give me another trope. That's not even a trope. It's just they're just it's just another shitty thing, which I get what they're doing, but it's. I think my argument is okay, you're doing all these tropes, you gotta, and it obviously worked for you guys. I'm the lone voice here, but I just can't write a movie on a bunch of tropes. If it's just there's no nuance or there's no anything, it's just trope. I would at least something.
Well, I like that it's all real too. In this universe, it's all real. It's not they hired actors to be these zombies. It's round up the zombies. We gotta, or get this scary merman. That's
Where are they
Cleaned
getting
it
all
up
these
afterwards.
things from?
Well, they said it was the stuff from the dark ones that came from their
Okay.
minds.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
It's
okay,
from
created
story.
them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
from story.
But I love that
Um,
they're like real. I mean, because
Yeah.
if it had just been like actor, like then that would have been like so lame. But the fact that they're real and like stored in these little cubes, I was like, all right.
Yeah, you can stab
I
them in
love
the
the
head and they
cubes.
can still come back. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
The cubes are fun. You know, I have a question. Like we said some in the top of this that nobody, well, not nobody, some of it like didn't know that there was a the before it. But one of my favorite things is the opening of this movie. And when the credit, like the opening, the title card just fucking blares at you
Slams
like
on.
really loud and slams on. There's no the in that title.
That's true.
It just says cabin in the woods across the whole thing. So I think
Very
that's
true.
where it comes from in all of our brains. Like also is that it's not in the title card.
It's hard pressed as Cabin in the Woods.
Well,
Literally
I
from
just
the top.
I love that
assumed
opening.
The
Yeah.
reason they changed it was because I thought that was a trope against like Evil Dead and Friday the 13th because no one ever says the full title. Like it's the Evil
bet.
Dead. Most people call it Evil Dead, or like some of the Friday the 13th. I just assumed that's why they did that.
I mean, maybe it's just like it's not in that title card at the beginning or the end because they have the same title card at the end, but it's just not over the,
Yeah.
it's not as harsh and not, but like the same big red font is still there and there's no one about that. But I love the opening of this movie and it's like, like,
Because you're WTF. You have
yeah,
no.
it kind of
don't
though at the
understand.
same way sets you up for everything that's about to
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
like,
Well, and
'cause they're
also
just
harkens
talking
back
about
to,
what?
well, it harkens back to like, having a big scary like big title card, which now it's like retro and cool again, and The Conjuring did it and now everything does it. But like for a while we didn't get those. It was like cooler and like 90s, and now it was like big like it used to be in
It
the
just
70s.
is shoved out. It scares the crap out of you actually because they're talking about like cabinets or something. Like they're talking about their weekend plans or some nonsense. I don't remember. And then like it just fucking comes out of nowhere.
Friday the 13th used to do that. They do that big white like right in, and like some of them like they start out scary, but some would just be like he'll be like that was it. The first one's like starts out just like they're in there and like she's just driving the truck, and it's like you're like, oh Jesus, okay, all right.
Well, I have one more little favorite thing. Will take me just a minute about the system purge, and then Jamie, I know you had a couple of things you wanted to jump into.
No, I think we touched on most of them. So
Okay, but I don't know if you all had the same reaction, but I loved it. Sort of hit me in my soft spot when they're running through there and just trying to get away from all the monsters that are trying to get to safety. And they run around the corner in that one hall, and at the opposite end of the hall is this group of shambler zombies just crawling. And they're like, don't have to worry about them.
All right, we'll go in the wall.
I thought that was fantastic. You got to have some shamblers in there just to kind of change the pace a little bit.
It's a classic too. It's a classic slow zombie.
Exactly, yeah.
Different from the other ones.
But their reaction was fantastic.
One thing that I wasn't expecting to be affected by was the like bear trap thing that they throw, like get onto people's back and it drags them. I don't know if that's referencing something in particular, but if it was, I missed it. But that in particular, I was like, oh God, like it just, the way it like gets in the whole back and it drags. I was like, huh.
I think that was a reference to Hills Have Eyes because in the original one, the one guy was swung around a bear trap for a while and he laid it out for people and stuff. And he looked like a weird zombie hillbilly, even though he was just a weird looking guy.
Because that's what you always have to have, apparently.
Well, in the original one, it wasn't like the remake where they put makeup on these people. They just found some weird looking people. And they're like, do you want to be a weird desert
I mean, Michael Berryman looks a little like, right? That's his movie, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, that's his.
But he's a fantastic human being, apparently.
But
Like,
actually, he
just-
is so amazing. He is, yeah.
Is he on Cameo?
I think he probably is. If I was guessing,
Sometime.
he'd be a fun one. Any other comments or questions? Anything else y'all want to discuss before
I
got a couple
one
of
question
pieces of
for you
trivia.
guys. I totally didn't pick up on this and what's going on, and it's a little thread that I can't figure out. The guys that were supposed to blow the tunnel, they say is something from upstairs. It wasn't our fault. Are they're saying the upstairs were trying to sabotage it?
It's Marty.
Marty
the
did
stoner
something.
guy. He was messing with the panel.
He rewired things.
Totally missed it this time.
Yeah. He's like up there fucking with shit.
Yeah, and that's when the other guy, realizes something bad has happened. When they say, no, this happened upstairs. What do you mean upstairs? That's when
I always thought he was
On
talking about
set.
the director was messing there. I'm like, why would she do that?
I think she's downstairs.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of director, if not Bruce Campbell or Sigourney Weaver, is there anyone you would have put in as a
Ooh.
horror icon to be like the director?
Oh, I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, she would have been a good choice.
You know who would have been fantastic?
If you say Linda Blair, I'm gonna punch you in the head.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
She does
so
that a
aggressive.
lot. She does that a lot, though. I feel. Like
Yeah,
she shows
that's why
up
if you
as,
said it, I'd been so
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah, but
I
so does
think-
Sigourney Weaver. So like,
I think it would be fantastic to have John Carpenter be the director.
Oh
Just
my
have
god,
That'd
he
be
would.
cool.
That's
He
what popped
wouldn't.
in my head.
He wouldn't be in this movie. You know what? It's funny you said that because I told Mary. I said it's almost like John Carpenter made this movie.
oh, I want.
Like that's what like because I know
Should've
like
been-
you guys have fond memories of it, but this almost felt like to me. I watched this like this was John Carpenter's letter to horror. Like fuck you guys, here it's all this shit you want. Here you go. Like that's what it felt like to me.
if it's not Bruce Campbell, it should have been Robert England.
Oh, that's
Oh,
a
see, that would've
is
been-
My
excellent
only
choice.
Brad
argument for this.
Dourif would have been cool
Well, my
too.
yeah.
argument, see, like my argument is like someone who most people know who they are as soon as you see them. I
Mhm.
think actually Bruce Campbell is probably one of the most recognizable when you see his face. Like, but
Mm.
so I'm trying to think, like, even if you mention directors and whatever, like some people don't know what their even favorite director looks like, especially
Right.
back in the day, because like you didn't see these
Yeah.
people so
Right.
much. So like I'm just trying to think of someone, and I get it. Robert Englund usually has makeup on, but I think everybody kind of knows what he looks like anyway.
Well,
Who's
same with
the-
Brad Dourif. He does the voice, but
Yeah.
he, you
Brad Dourif, I'm not that well. I'm also not a Chucky fan, so like I couldn't. If I walked by him in the street, I couldn't even tell you.
Who's the stuntman that played Jason in
Kane
Hatchet?
Hodder.
Kane
He would be
Hodder.
good.
Yeah.
yeah. That's like a inside baseball though. That
Or
would
he
be
should have
like-
been the
is,
security
yeah, it
guy.
is.
He
It's
should have
like
been the
an- yeah.
security guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been fun. There,
Oh,
yeah.
you
He's
know
like-
who
he's
else?
Not the greatest actor.
Yeah.
What's her name? Played Nancy in 1700 the
Heather
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Langenkamp.
Heather
Heather
Langenkamp.
Langenkamp,
Yeah, she could probably been
She
one.
worked on this movie apparently. She did like makeup or something.
Oh, really?
Well, that's what
Yeah.
she did after the Nightmare. Like she was a pretty famous or like pretty well established makeup artist.
They had
I
to
think.
like bill her as something else because they didn't want people to know she was
Yeah.
working on it. But I don't know. There's so many people. But I mean,
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver was a solid choice. So
Oh, yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, she's the gold standard if you can get her.
Yeah.
And,
And-
it's
and
I
when we're
love
talking
that
about-
as an actor, she's up for these kind of things. Like she does
Yeah.
them a lot because
She's a good
sort
sport.
of yeah, she takes it in stride for sure.
And if we're saying recognizable, I mean, she is a main actress in pop, pop culture. No matter talk about horror fan or not, like horror fan, you
True.
get some of it, but not. You still know who the fuck most people who Sigourney Weaver.
That's where the
is.
budget
I mean,
went for this. They were like, we gotta get Sigourney
Well, to be
Weaver.
fair, I mean, none of these other people besides Chris Hemsworth, and we didn't even talk about this. Wasn't even after Thor money. Like
Yeah.
nobody in this movie. I tried looking up what else they've been in since to see if I have seen them and
Doesn't,
didn't realize. But
Jesse Williams, wasn't he on some show?
Yeah.
I've never watched it, whatever it is. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like I haven't seen any of them in any of it. And then like then you got just Thor in the middle of the cast.
Well, even the director hasn't done much after this. I mean, he's the one who did what was it, Bad Times at El
I
Royale.
love that time
Chris
El
Hemsworth.
Royale.
He did
With
that one.
Chris Hemsworth.
But I think that's the only
not
other
why I
movie
love
he's
it.
really directed. He's done a ton of writing. He's more of a writer than a director, but
Hmm.
he hasn't done a
To
lot of
me
directing.
though, that's two big like hits on his list.
Mhm.
Like two big pluses or
But apparently he's not
um,
studio friendly. Apparently, so
Oh, because like those two for a resume are pretty damn good. Like
Mhm.
I
So,
like
and-
that comes at El Royale. So
absolutely, yeah. And we mentioned it at the top, and you just mentioned it again. We do need to talk about sort of the Hollywood or the production nightmare that this movie. Do you want to jump into it, Jamie? Me,
yeah,
and
you could.
may be
Yeah,
the
'cause I'm
only
sure
two.
you have more information on it. I just know the delay in it because it also had to do with the video game tie-in, just like
Yeah.
the bankruptcy and stuff. But like, yeah, you could go for it.
Well, the first thing that blew my mind when I was looking at it is obviously this is a Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard script that they wrote in 3 days. They wrote this entire script in 3 days, and they both wrote it because they had just both come off of bombs. They had both just had movies that had done really, really poorly, so they were kind of not feeling great about themselves. So they literally went to a hotel and just banged out the script. So to your point, Eli, there's a lot of angst written into this because of their experience with their own movies at that time.
Do you know what the two movies were? Just out of
I didn't.
Okay, no, it's fine. I don't either. I was just
the one before for Goddard. The one before Cabin in the Woods is Cloverfield, which I thought did well, but
Yeah, I like Cloverfield a lot.
I don't think it was
The
I don't think
original?
it was
The original Cloverfield.
yeah,
that's
I-
what it did?
it's a cult favorite now. I don't
Yeah,
think it
I don't
did
think it did well,
gangbusters
but-
at the box office.
I thought it did. I was told to go see it. Like I saw it in theaters. I thought
Yeah,
it
I
was
saw
a big...
I saw that in theaters.
Yeah, I thought it was. Well, whatever. Okay, fine.
Well, and then this movie was backed by MGM. This movie was sort of the casualty of the MGM bankruptcy, which is why it got shelved. And then after Thor came out, and because of the cast of this and the writers and directors that were attached to it, Joss was about to do Avengers. You had Chris Hemsworth as Thor. These were big ticket names that were coming up. Then that's when it was picked up by Lionsgate and given sort of a second life. It was never going to see the light of day until they saw it and its finished product and said, holy crap, this is a great movie. And it's got the right people in it. And then they put it out. But this is one of those that we may have never seen if it wasn't for this fluke review and purchase by Lionsgate, because it was part of this bankruptcy and it just sat.
Yeah,
Shout out
Lions-
Lionsgate. Shout out
Lionsgate's
Lionsgate.
pretty. Well, they're pretty good about that, buying
They're pretty
shelf
sharp.
movies and then just like throwing them out there.
They
But
also
can you
release
imagine-
a lot.
try?
They release
Yeah.
a lot of horror, so like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like maybe it's just
Yeah.
me, but like I feel like Lionsgate does release a lot of horror.
When I think of Lionsgate, I think horror, but maybe that's just like what I.
Me too,
consume.
though,
Oh,
Caitlin.
yeah.
So, but like,
Yeah.
didn't they used to have? Aren't they the ones with the horror opening? Wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh no,
I
that's
thought that's
twisted.
Yeah.
That's twisted, right? But
Oh, Twisted Pictures or
we're-
whatever.
I'm confusing the both. But didn't Lionsgate have the gears also?
Yeah.
Someone in my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lionsgate.
Yeah,
Okay,
they had the Gears one for a while.
Lionsgate must have released Saw, and ever since then, it's just been stuck in my head that they're tied to like horror movies.
But
Like,
can
I
you
think-
imagine being the producer who's going through the MGM archives and somebody says, "We got this horror movie. I know you're into the horror stuff as Lionsgate. It's got this kid Chris Hemsworth who's about to be Thor. Well, who wrote it and directed? It was Joss Whedon. Yeah, we'll buy that.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'll buy that for
Bargain
$1.
rate. We'll take it.
Get this out as soon as possible."
Yeah.
So then it came out though after the first Thor, right? Because like when I
Yeah.
saw it in theaters, I didn't. Here's another thing: I didn't know he was even in it. So however it was marketed, I don't even think I knew, because I think I sat down and just went, "Holy shit! Isn't that?" Because he also looked so much younger. Because
Yeah.
granted, it wasn't that far apart, but he got jacked for Thor, and this is like he's obviously probably always been like jacked, but we're talking Thor jacked versus just a buff
College
man
football
jacked.
player, yeah.
Normal, yeah, like normal buff, I guess, and then Thor buff. So like when I sat down and like when he came on, I was like, I did like a double take of like, wait, huh? Because then he looked different, and I was like, wait, what the hell? So like, yeah, I
The
didn't know all that
buzz
stuff till
cut. I was
after.
like, oh, baby. Just a little.
Any other thoughts? I think we've talked this one into the ground. I did have a fun little piece of trivia.
Oh my god,
Oh.
it's coming.
You know Marty's bong mug that he uses.
Yeah.
At the There's a comment online that or the production team, the art direction team, they were very proud that was fully functional.
It is,
in both configurations.
It took like a crazy. It cost
$5,000
$5,000 to make the
What?
prototype. Yeah, $5,000.
Holy shit.
When he like swoop, like shrinks it up after he gets out the car, I was like, okay, yeah, like good for him.
I'm really
that's fine.
surprised you don't see those in every Spencer's.
Oh yeah, you can
Spencer's
sell
is
that.
the market. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm just surprised. Like after this movie came out, there wasn't one of those in every Spencer's the next day.
Can you
I'm gonna
imagine the
find
bad
you
day
one,
you're going to
Eli.
have if you've collapsed it after using it in bog configuration and
drink-
forget, and then you take a big swig of
Oh
it?
god.
That's a bad day.
No. I'm gonna find one on eBay and send it to Eli.
I don't. No.
I know you don't want it, but
I'll chuck it right in the creek.
you and Mary can display it, and it'll be like
Oh my
your
God,
point of
she
contention,
would.
and she would like
She,
it.
we got done watching it the second time, and like she was trying, like she just kind of looks over at me, and I stand up, and I'm like, she's like, I don't want to talk to you right now. I was like,
It's so funny
I
that you
don't.
guys are
I was like,
married.
I don't hate it. She's like,
don't
don't
hate
even. She's
it.
like, don't talk to me. She's like, go. I was like, all right.
This is the spice of life.
Yes.
Well, that's all I've got. Mark Barrow was a violinist on the soundtrack for The Cabin in the Woods. Are you a big fan of Mark Barrow, Caitlin? You love his work? I'm a big fan of his work.
I know
I
we've
say
done
yes.
every damn episode.
well, it's always the same guy.
I know it is. I know it is. Every damn episode.
Man, this
This
guy's got
guy-
a lot of movies.
He's
around.
he's a working violinist, and God bless him for it. You know, if you don't know Mark Barrow is just apparently one of the best violinists in Hollywood. One of his greatest works is when he worked on the soundtrack for Antlers.
I'm telling you. Listen, Dave. I keep telling you this, and it's going to keep happening.
I'm going to send you a Mark Barrow t-shirt.
One day you will taste ash in your mouth and know the debt is paid. It is coming, my friend.
You should do, if you go to the IMDb collaboration or whatever their search is where you can put it, which is how I do these, is when you put in a couple of movies and see where they have the same cast or same production team. For this one, maybe this is why you hate this movie, Eli. This movie has a ton of crossover with Antlers.
Does it?
Stunt people, the art direction, the creature design.
Oh, I would say
all the
creature.
same
Yeah,
people.
look at all the creature
No.
design and stuff.
You know, I keep
Maybe you smell antlers on this.
for
and you have-
the podcast I do with Jeff. We sometimes will hit up IMDb, and I can't tell you how many times when I go there for some reason on the right hand side it does other movies you might based off your search, and it keeps popping up Antlers, and I keep like that dark voice.
Bullshit.
No, honestly, it keeps pop because you think about all these horror movies we watch and all this cross contamination with shit. It keeps popping up on the right hand side, and I keep hearing this like dark little voice in the back of my head that goes, "Just go put a review. Just go give him a 1-star review and type a big long mean message." I'm like, "No, Eli, don't do it. You don't falter such things." I keep just little voice in my ear.
I don't have the energy for like bad reviews.
I'm gonna
let
sign it
alone,
off as
it's
Dave.
like
Well, Eli,
Dave, like that matters.
yeah,
Impersonation.
it may be, Eli, because I've got an old laptop playing, just streaming Antlers on a loop, and I've got it programmed to your IP at your house. So that may
Listen,
be the reason.
We have said the name of this abomination to humanity more
tell me
times
that's
this
true.
episode
Please
than I
tell me that's
care
true.
to what the fact that we've said it a lot, or he has an I feed my IP.
Yes.
I will burn my computer to the ground, my friend. I will burn it to the ground.
I don't think that'll affect mine. I don't know if you know how IPs work.
I will not. This movie. I told Mary after
I'm
we watched
regretting
it,
asking Eli for
Shut up.
computer advice right now.
I told Mary after we watched it, because she sometimes would go buy the Blu-ray, and I said, if I swear to God, if we get an Amazon package and I see it, I'm gonna chuck it across the street. I said this movie will not
Run
come
it
in this
over.
house.
Run it over. I
Eli.
want you guys to know that I'm like really deep into travel mug bong extendable telescoping, and
Ooh.
they call it well, when they're referencing Cabin in the Woods, they call it Chekhov's bong, which is really I really appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How much are they?
Now he's
So I'm
in.
on
Not
Copy
that
Mug-
not that I want to buy, but I have to imagine they're expensive, right?
Yeah, everything I'm seeing is that they're expensive, but you know, maybe we
He
can
literally
find one on
uses
eBay.
it as a sword at one point in the movie.
That's what's so funny. That's why it's Chekhov's bong, because
Exactly.
he uses it to bash, one of the.
It's his
creatures.
weapon.
Yeah.
So Eli, at the top of this, you mentioned, or you used the very visual illustration of them beating a horse and then beating the horse some more and then beating you with the dead horse.
Yeah.
Just believe me that Mark Barrow is the dead horse that I will continue.
I'm
to
telling you
mention.
right now, one day the debt will be paid. Okay, the debt
And-
will be paid.
I'm here for it. I'm scared.
We'll see.
You got to find my cave first.
Oh, I know all the caves. The
So
Mole King.
thank you to all of my hosts for hanging out and talking about another fun movie with us. We do have our new rating system, our Trailblazers, and I'm going to let, just as a peace offering, I'll let Eli say Brown Blaze first.
Listen, I get it. Maybe I get why some people like this. For me, if you want to watch it, go ahead. I don't know if I would call it a trail. This is more like a rest stop. And you're gonna come to this rest stop on the trail. And you're gonna say, "Well, it's clean enough for me to go." Or you're gonna say, "There's a turd sitting on the toilet seat." So I'll let you decide. You open that porta potty door, and you make the decision on the side of that trail.
That's not
Is-
one of our ratings.
I made a new one this week.
Like,
He is
I
off script.
purposely found one with at least 7 options you could choose from,
Fine.
and you had to still
It's a
create your
porta
own.
potty on the side at the crossroads of a brown trail and a I don't give a fuck trail. And you can choose which trail that porta
Oh
potty's
my
on.
god!
I let you go first in everything. Now everybody's just more confused. Jamie,
brown trout.
Jamie, what do you think?
What is it called? Trail Family? What is it when it's like the greatest thing you've ever seen? And it's like, well,
part of your career.
I'm not putting it there. I'm just doing that on purpose. But no, it's Trail Family. I like even hearing the thought that this movie may have one day not existed kind of hurts. It just makes me sad. Like, I think it's like, I'm very happy it's out in the world. And
what else is on the shelf? I think the same thing.
If anybody, had listened to this without seeing this movie, which we kind of did a poor job anyway of really getting into like detail, but like you have to watch this movie, especially
it wouldn't matter if we did. Fan. Yeah, you have to watch it too.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. Like, you need to watch this movie because it's just so enjoyable, and I can't imagine a world where it doesn't really exist.
And it is a perfect spooky season kind of movie, just because it's got all of that classic trope stuff happening. I see you, Eli. I love you, brother. The problem with opinions is we all get to have one. I understand that's the complication in the situation, but
Mole Kingdom, there is no opinions.
John, what do you think of this one?
Oh, this is just a big old happy family on the trail right here. This is so good. And why Eli just doesn't like fun, we'll never know. Just keep on listening though, and he'll tell you why he hates fun every single week. You know what? And I have to make this reference just because I totally forgot to mention it, but you could say this movie does not give Eli a husband's bulge.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Yeah.
I hate you so much.
One of my favorite lines of Marty is when he walks through and he goes, he has a husband's
bulge.
I was like,
so
matter of fact.
He just walks through.
I love that. Yes.
All right, for our first time watcher, still blowing my mind, Caitlin, what did you think of this one?
Because it was a first time watch, I'm going to go Pink Place because I need to spend some more time with it before it gets, Trail Angel or Trail Family. But it's one that I am, having a lot of fun with right now.
Piqued your interest, yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm glad that I got to experience it for the first time with you all because, like I said, it was one that I was like, I feel really bad. I love horror and I'm pretty steeped in horror movies and lore and stuff like that.
You are, which is why our faces went like this.
I know.
You speak this vocabulary.
Shame, like I said, my secret shame. So
I was jealous.
But I enjoyed the conversation of, even though this was your first watch, you immediately knew what they were doing, which is sort of the point we're making with this movie. So, yeah.
I came ready with my answer to Jamie's question.
I think Ray Charles knew what they were doing.
What?
And he was blind. I think Ray Charles could see what they were doing.
Yeah, I get it now. Yeah, I got it. I got it after the fact.
See what I did there?
Well, I heard only the Charles, but then I put it together when I heard the rest of it. So I got it.
It's okay. Treacy's.
So for me, and I want to make this clear because this one might be surprising to some people. This is not Trail Family to me, but we talked about this early in the episode. This is one that I have to put on cool for a while and then come back and really enjoy. This is not one that I'm cranking through, every 6 months or even a year. I need to let this one sit. I know I'm going to love it. I love this movie, but this is a Green Blaze kind of movie. I've got to be in the right mindset. I've got to be ready to really sit down and get into an altered state and really enjoy kind of what they're doing with it. But I don't know that I could. I'm afraid if I watch this too often, it would burn out. Like it would just.
Well, it'll lose its.
Yeah.
It will. I agree. It would. I don't watch it that often either. And I'm sorry. I'm not even trying to defend I'm just saying I agree with you. I agree that you can't watch it too often. It would burn out.
Yeah.
I just don't want to live in a world where it doesn't exist.
You want to protect it. You want to provide for it. I understand. Well, on that note, we are at the part of the episode when we are going to do a giveaway to our audience. So what you have up for stakes is a $25 coupon code for the Wicked Wild shop, whatever merch you want. I'm going to give you a special code for $25 to pick out some of you can get you a Mole King t-shirt, get you a Campfire Tales t-shirt or merch, sticker, mugs. We've got all kinds of crap on there. What you need to do to win, that's what. What you need to do to win is you need to send me an email with your argument that Eli's wrong about Antlers. That's actually a good movie. And your ready defense against all of this angst and vitriol that Eli's had against Antlers. You're going to send that to podcast at thewickedwild.com. That's podcast at thewickedwild.com. I'll choose a winner. And if it's a good defense, I think we would all enjoy having me read it on the episode next week.
I was going to say, do I get to argue against this horse shit that they're about to put in these emails?
Nope.
Fake
We
news.
might end up with a 3-hour episode.
Hey, I'll make a PowerPoint. I don't even care.
So if you're down to clown and want some Wicked Wild merchandise, send me your email. I'm looking forward to getting those and sifting through them and picking a winner. And I will, if I don't read it online, I'll still reach out to you via email and congratulate you and send you the code. Does that sound like fun? So as always, as we mentioned, especially in the month of October, you're about to jump right in. You only have 2 days to wait for the Campfire Tales to follow up this episode here. So, Eli, what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, I figured for this special month, we would do some big, crazy tales of horror and legends and lore. So I figured, we watched Cabin in the Woods, about a cabin in the woods. So movie based on nothing. So I figured I would find a story involving not a cabin per se, but a shack in the woods near abandoned sanatorium and hospital. We're going to be talking about Cropsey.
We're going to my home. We're going to Staten Island.
Wait, you say your home? Did you live in that shack too?
Yeah, I lived in the shack with Cropsey.
That's going to be a fantastic episode. And just a little inside baseball. Jamie's already mentioned that she's got some inside track knowledge, boots on the ground stories from that whole historical event.
For those that don't know, but I think most do from my voice, yes, I live in Manhattan now, but that's only been the past 10 to 12 years. I am born and raised in Staten Island my whole life. So I only left 12 years ago, whatever it is, 10. And I didn't go far. I'm in Manhattan. They are 20 minutes if there's no traffic. But
this is your folklore.
This is, well, yes and no, because I'm a little too young for, all of us are actually too young for it. But yes.
But is the legend closest to where you grew up for sure?
Yeah, Eli. It ended in the 80s.
Some people say that
still there.
It wasn't him.
Okay. Yes, I know that. I'm just saying. Okay. The story also that my mom has information on or remembers ended in the 80s, but
I just want to give a little hint for everybody that enjoyed the Candy Lady of Texas. We might have a hobo situation again.
Oh no!
Coming to an ear hole near you.
You know what? You guys all made fun of that, but anytime there's a hole involved, you love just saying it, right? Not how you do.
You can also follow us on Twitter. See how I've got to power through at this point, John. I've just got to
just drive by, man. Just keep going. Windows up. Keep going.
You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @WickedWildWeAre. We're always posting some fun stuff on there and sending out and promoting our buddies like Plug It Up Podcast. What is your handles over there, Caitlin?
Yeah, I'm Plug It Up Pod on everything. So you can find me there and you can find the podcast on whatever podcatcher you use.
What fun things do you have coming up you want to tease to our audience?
I'm sitting on some good episodes on new releases. So
sweet.
Got to the theater a couple times, had a lot of fun with that. Gonna do a little Halloween, and not just Halloween as in October 31st, but Halloween, the franchise special with a friend of mine who is quite into a certain part of the Michael Myers lore. And then if you're local to the Richmond area, you can come see me do trivia the first Friday of every month.
Oh, sweet.
I've got really fun stuff planned for the October one. So
cool. So give us a little rundown or sort of your elevator pitch for what Plug It Up Podcast is, just so people know.
Yeah, Plug It Up is a horror movie podcast about the monstrous feminine. So I like when that means there's a monstrous femme figure, like a monstrous mom or a monstrous lady of some kind. But it can also be final girls and women battling horrors. But just, coming at horror from sort of a women's perspective.
And always fantastic insights you bring to those. I always enjoy those.
Thanks. I've had all of you on.
Yeah, you've had every member of our crew on.
Most recently, Eli and John for Pie Wacket and Pray. So, yeah, that was fun.
It's all one big family here. We're all crew. So also, obviously, as we say on the end of each of our podcasts, we would like to ask you to subscribe and rate the show. 5 stars, obviously. I think we all know that at this point. It's a 5-star podcast. If it's not, then
Get fucked.
maybe we need to meet with HR and kind of let's walk this amicably.
I'll talk to him off the side, Dave. Don't worry about it. If it's not 5, come talk to me. I'll tell you what's up.
I'll send you to the Mole King, and
Send me to Mole King.
Good luck. And then also you can learn more about the podcast and about our crew at thewickedwild.com. That's our website where we have written reviews about movies and books. You can see our podcast on there. It streams directly from there. And as we mentioned earlier, we've got our shop linked in there with a lot of different fun merchandise. One thing that I'm going to tease this week and tell you more about next week is we have a new contributing journalist joining the team, Joe Ferry. You're going to hear more from him in a little while, but he's actually put together a really cool little format that I'm not going to spoil this week, but he's going to have some new articles and information. And that's a dude that is deep knowledge. I mean, he's a deep well of
He would never admit to that.
Well,
and he's always like, I don't
I'm
know
saying
anything.
it for him. I'm saying it for him.
We all say it.
Yeah. He is very excited about that, Dave. Just FYI, like he's super
I'm stoked too. So keep listening, and I'll let you know when that first article drops. And he and Eli have already been kind of scrumming together, making some plans for some content that they're going to put together on the road. So it should be fun. If you have any questions or thoughts, any feedback that you want to send to me, that email again is podcast, podcast, at thewickedwild.com. Did I miss anything?
How cool I am.
You are cool.
Yeah, thank you.
And your mama loves you. How's that?
I feel better after you slated me off. So.
There you go.
Does your wife love you after this episode?
I don't think so.
Hard no.
But you know what?
She's asleep. It's
Like
okay.
I said, 95% of people are wrong.
She's in that.
Statistically speaking.
I don't think that's a hard line you want to take. But,
Listen,
you do what you got to do.
I'll put all the lines in the sand. I'm the Mole King. I'm the Mole King, baby. Do what I want.
Mary just shuts the basement door. All right.
Yes, you're a big, strong man. Congratulations. Click.
Lock.
You're the lock.
Said.
Yeah. And on that note, we have put our first episode of Camp Wicked Wild in the books. So excited. We'll be back next week with more funsies. And as we always say at the Wicked Wild, our recommendation to you is that you get out there and get yourself lost, because it may be the only place you can find yourself. Y'all have a good night.